as the world around us keeps changing, we need to move forward too. But that doesn't always mean being resource intensive to build new. Hello and welcome, I'm Sadhika Tiwari and you're watching Eco India. Sometimes the best solutions lie in working with what we already have. Much like an Indian mother who loves to reuse and repurpose everything. Let's meet people who are turning local challenges into creative opportunities and showing us that being resourceful isn't just smart, it might be the only way forward. Sometimes the best way forward is going back to your roots. In Tamil Nadu's Nilgiri Hills, large parts of the native forest were cleared long ago to make space for tea plantations. But now researchers, forest workers, and even tea plantation owners are teaming up to revive this ecosystem. It is slow, careful work, but it is already making a difference.
Pristine, ecologically diverse, and rich in cultural heritage, the Nilgiri Hills are a microcosm of our planet. India's first biosphere reserve is located here, up in the Western Ghats mountain range, one of the world's most renowned biodiversity hotspots. Home to around 15 indigenous communities, Nilgiris are a living mosaic of ancient shola forests, rare grasslands, and cloud-enveloped hills that feed rivers, store carbon, and help shape the climate of peninsular India. Yet this delicate balance has long been coming under growing strain.
Over the past 200 years, there has been a lot of land use change, which means that close to 70% of the upper landscape has been denuded for growing plantations like tea, eucalyptus, wattle, and other plantations. And close to 10% was destroyed to develop the towns and cities and the other villages that we see around. So close to 80% of the upper landscape has already been changed, to a larger extent.
When the British arrived in the 1800s, Nilgiris-based hydrologist Gokul Halan explains, they viewed the region's grasslands and wetlands as wastelands. They cleared large swathes of native shola forests to make way for tea, eucalyptus, and wattle plantations. These cash crops, favored for their economic value over biodiverse ecosystems, led to monoculture farming and drastically changed the region's ecology.
So even today, if you look at the government records, most of the grasslands and the wetlands are categorized as wastelands.
Today, researchers like Gokul Halan and ecologist Godwin Vasant Bosco are working to undo centuries of ecological damage. Because for them, the region is too precious to lose. Bosco's small team is identifying the last remaining patches of native shola grasslands and replanting them with species suited to specific soils and microclimates. They are reintroducing native plants, removing invasive species, and slowly bringing back the shola grassland mosaic.
Right now we have close to 150 species that we are growing. And then we are actively trying to find out places where we can plant. So we start off with a baseline survey of seeing what species is there now, and then coming up with a plan of removing the invasive species or the plantation species, and then coming up with a planting plan. And then we do the planting and then also take care of the initial maintenance and to make sure that the native species are growing.
In the Nilgiris, restoration is rooted in local knowledge. Indigenous communities, many of them recognized as particularly vulnerable tribal groups, have long understood what to grow, where to grow it, and how to listen to the land. Alongside ecologists, communities like the Todas and Badagas are bringing their traditional wisdom to the restoration efforts. Among them is Aradu Kuttan, a Toda whose family has lived in these hills for generations. His ancestral knowledge is essential for the work being done here. The area was completely spread with invasive species such as Solanum, Eupatorium, and Lantana. We took up the challenging task of removing them entirely, right from their roots. We recognize the importance of the nearby spring, which supplies water to about 30 to 40 wells in the surrounding village. It benefits nearly 20,000 people. And we began ecological restoration by planting native shola trees. Today, these trees have grown significantly. And one of the most remarkable changes is that the stream now flows continuously for over 2 kilometers, with an increased flow volume thanks to the improved soil and vegetation. It's a success story that began nearly a decade ago.
We have close to like 80 different locations now all over the Nilgiris. You will hear a lot of birds and frogs, and a lot of species have come back. Almost all the plant and the animals that you find in a shola grassland ecosystem now come and visit this space. If you're lucky, we can hear the endangered endemic Nilgiri laughing thrush also. It's a bird that prefers these elevations, and it needs a lot of the shola species. And there are many shola species trees that have been regrown.
While much of the Nilgiris are still dominated by tea, a few plantation owners are choosing soil health over short-term profit and reintroducing shola trees among their crops.
They act like a sponge. So when it rains, it holds the water there and it stores it in its root system. So over time, the water table automatically rises, wherever these shola trees are. Like a web of water, almost like a communication channel between these different clusters. So what we're trying to replicate here is something similar. So it's a very, very slow growing tree. Where other trees will gain maturity in 10 years' time, these will take 15, 20 years, even longer than that. But over time, we hope that this becomes like a little forest of shola trees with the tea growing underneath it.
Rewilding the Nilgiris might be slow work, but for people like Kuttan and Bosco, it's no longer a job but a responsibility.
I don't see it as work, and that it's more like a response to so much that's happening around us.
What do you do when there's a river nearby but your wells are still running dry? This was the everyday reality in Kerala's Tritala, where entire communities were facing a water crisis. But for solutions, they turned to their own traditional knowledge and their people to create something remarkable. And now their model of governance is being seen as a blueprint that others can learn from.
The southern Indian state of Kerala is the first to welcome monsoon rains in India. It drenches the region in over 3,000 millimeters of rain each year, but many towns have long faced water shortages, according to local sustainability volunteer Neeraja Ramadas.
Nowadays, by the month of December, many wells already start drying up.
She works with the school children, women's organizations and farmers in the region on sustainability projects under the Sustira Tritala or Sustainable Tritala initiative. Together, they have built a large number of water-holding structures like this pond since the start of the initiative in 2022 to help address the falling groundwater levels in and around their town.
There are three main focus areas in the Susthira Tritala initiative. These are water conservation, sustainable agriculture, and better waste management. In addition, we are also working to clean up and desilt rivers to restore their natural flow, which had been degraded or neglected in the name of development.
Her work involves convincing farmers to free up parts of their land for water conservation projects. Over time, the benefits outweigh the costs. For farmers like V.V. Balachandran, who relied on water tankers for their daily needs. I used to stop coconut cultivation after the month of March due to water scarcity. But this year, thanks to the improvements brought by the project, I was able to continue farming beyond that period. The groundwater around his farm has gradually risen over the past couple of years thanks to the recharge tank built in his village. In the past, we had to supply water to all the wards via tankers. This year, however, water only had to be sent to a handful of locations. Tritala's administration wants to lead by example and is using government buildings as groundwater recharge infrastructure. Here at the local school, a small forest is being planted to stop the rainwater from running off over the soil surface. And the roofs of the school building have been turned into collection funnels. They harvest the rainwater and direct it behind the building into a percolation tank. Neeraja shows us how the old and new water storages work together.
This is an old open well on the school grounds. By the time summer came around, this used to be dried out. So the rainwater tank was set up just next to it to collect the runoff water during the rains.
Building such infrastructure takes many hands, and the government is supporting the initiative by making workers from the MGNREGA Rural Employment Scheme available for these projects.
We can build all kinds of infrastructure, like wells and farm ponds. We have recently built 2 new ones. We have also learned how to build canals and clean rivers.
Their most recent project was a rainwater harvesting system at the local child care center known as Anganwadis. The Sustira Trithala initiative trained the employees here to segregate and recycle the waste they produce. Before the rains, they are taught to check and maintain the water collection structures. Rainwater harvesting is now considered part of their work responsibilities.
When we first came here, we didn't know what to do. But the resource persons helped us a lot by guiding us through training and helping us understand everything. That's how we reached a point where we felt inspired to do better and contribute more.
Meanwhile, floods are becoming more frequent all over Kerala. Small agricultural towns like Trithala are growing. And even while they attempt to save enough water to last the year, new construction is struggling to adapt to the effects of climate change. In areas like water conservation and agriculture, people often view sustainable and traditional development as opposing ideas. So it's important to first explain and make people aware of the necessity of sustainable adaptations. Local water management expert Vasudevan Pillai says that disasters have driven home the extent of the challenge facing the region. Back then, we weren't fully utilizing the rivers to channel water effectively, and many water bodies had been neglected or clogged, making them incapable of holding water and causing flooding. Learning from that, we took steps to restore the rivers, clear the canals, and ensure proper water flow. The farms and woods around Trithala are now drained by newly cleaned canals and waterways, now full with this year's monsoon water. Proper channeling and collection of the abundant rainwater is already showing results and has raised Trithala's groundwater by about 10%. The success of this project in Trithala can largely be attributed to strong leadership and effective interdepartmental collaboration. While the work isn't fully complete yet, it's clear that the project must continue and sustain and build on this progress.
It must go on.
Sustira Trithala's ponds have become a favorite with the children, who are also essential for the future of the initiative. And the government is keen to extend this initiative all over Kerala in an attempt to end the cycle of floods and water shortages.
Every summer, kayaks glide down the rivers of southern France, but few survive the season. Most of them end up as bulky plastic waste. What if they could be turned into something sleek and designer? Sure, but what can broken kayaks be even turned into? See for yourself in our next story, where plastic is not just a problem, but a resource with a second life.
This kayak could soon be a chair. Hitting everything from rapids to branches to rocks takes its toll on the boats, which end up as plastic waste on a large scale. But a local initiative in southern France has risen to the plastic waste challenge and found a sustainable solution by turning old kayaks into designer furniture. Here's how it starts. Jules grew up on the Drôme, a mountain river in southern France. He's been showing tourists how to have fun on the water for years.
That was a typical example. We were moving slowly, but the rocks scraped the bottom of the kayak and could have damaged it. This happens all the time, especially in July and August when the river is shallow.
Jules' boss, Pierre Capillet, has had to scrap many kayaks. He's been renting boats to tourists here in the small village of Saillon for almost 20 years. He knows that the boats don't last forever, that some scratches and holes just can't be repaired.
These 5 boats have to be recycled. We navigate rivers that wear the boats down quite badly. So after a while, they can no longer be repaired. We're happy that we can now have the boats recycled, shredded, so that they can be made into new objects.
The damaged boats are loaded onto trucks and transported 20 kilometres upstream to a recycling centre in the town of Die. Here they're cut up, cleaned and then shredded. For plant manager Baptiste Jamet, plastic is a valuable resource that creates local jobs.
The people working here are being reintegrated into the workforce. Most of their salaries is being paid by the government. We offered them the opportunity to find a job again and return to the labour market, which is really valuable.
France recycles too little plastic waste, still incinerating or dumping much of it. In recent years, it has ranked near the bottom of the EU. That's set to change. Facilities like recycling centres are now being subsidised with public funds. The shredded boats go to furniture maker Fab Unit in the town of Cré. The old plastic is turned into sheets. First, the pellets are poured into frames and then placed in a press heated to 190 degrees Celsius.
Last year, we processed nearly 150 boats, around 6 tons worth that was collected, processed and recycled.
Carole Tourigny and Fab Unit are part of the International Precious Plastic Network, an open-source project that develops plastic recycling machines and allows others to download their blueprints free of charge. To be able to accept large orders for 800 chairs or more, the small company cooperates with other French workshops turning old plastic into new furniture.
We're looking for new production models. We want to move away from a globalized, centralized system toward decentralized production facilities located across the country, which can function as a network and compete with the large companies.
And hey presto, that's how kayaks are turned into simple, functional and modern designer furniture. The tourists are impressed.
It's great that a local initiative is recycling the boats locally. It's twice as fun going down the Drôme, knowing that the boat will have a second life.
Could new kayaks made from recycled plastic soon be coming down the Drôme? The raw material, at least, is there for the taking.
For a long time, millets were pushed aside. They were considered less profitable, outdated, maybe even poor people's food. But this is beginning to change in some parts of Tamil Nadu. Farmers are growing millets again, not because of nostalgia, but because they're tough and can withstand a lot. And now, with a growing interest in healthier foods, this small shift is beginning to make a big difference in the fields and on people's plates.
Ice cream, a tasty combination of dairy and sugar. But not this one. This one is made from millets. Millets are the grandfathers of modern-day crops like wheat and corn. They are very diverse. This is barnyard millet. red grade sorghum millet, foxtail millet, and this is kodo millet, which is mostly farmed in this region. In the last 40 years, millets have really reduced. And in this region, cotton and maize crops have completely taken over and made the farmers rely heavily on the market.
விதையிலிருந்து விற்பனை வரைக்கும் எல்லாமே மார்க்கெட்டை நம்பி தான் விவசாயிகள் இருக்க வேண்டிய சூழல் இருக்கு.
Farmer Saravanan Karunanidhi wants to change this and bring millets back. Not only can they be more reliable crops over the long term, but millets are also better for the soil, use less water, and are more nutritious overall. He started a cooperative called Namalwar Organic Millet Farmers Producer Organization to support those that believe in the message and want to make the transition. Our motto is that all the farmers should switch to millet farming and nutritious food should reach people. So initially we asked 7 farmers to implement millet farming in 5.5 acres. Today, we are doing it in 100 acres. At first, we used to organize meetings at various villages to create awareness, but today the farmers are volunteering themselves. We visited a farm in the process of transition with Saravanan. This farm, like many others, had great yields of cash crops when the rain was good, but suffered when it wasn't. As rains get more erratic, the farmer Banumati wanted to change to something more stable, even if that meant no bounties in good years. This is irungu corn. We have farmed it in this entire field. We can use this as a daily food as it is very nutritious. Also, we are feeding the cow, which yields more milk. When we harvest, we also grind the corn. We can prepare rice, upma, pongal, and all varieties of food. Everyone can eat it, young and old, and it's healthy for everyone. This time, we ground out millets and made Diwali sweets and snacks like murukku and laddu all by ourselves. Banumati and other women farmers work together and sell their products directly to the cooperative, who then package it and sell it to final consumers in various cities. They are seeing success as millets are becoming more popular in urban areas. Since we work, it is quite hard for us to process and prepare healthy foods for the kids. But these kind of millet flours makes breakfast much easier and give us the satisfaction of feeding healthy foods to our children.
That children are having healthy food.
Many customers said they're willing to pay a premium for this grain. The UN declared 2023 the year of the millet. But there is a long way to go before they can prove to be economically stable for farmers. They still do not compare to bounty cash crops, which can earn a farmer 4 times more in a year. But it's the other benefits that has some farmers hooked. Millets are considered to be climate resilient crops, and they hold an important place in long-term food security, according to UNO and other organizations. So millets are capable of fulfilling the food demand and supply issues long-term. And since it is a food enriched with nutrients, it can help to eradicate nutritional deficiencies in people. Farmers are ready to do millet farming if they get good support from the government. Farmers in the region are going back to traditional ways to deal with the future. If this works out, millets will make a comeback. Farmers will likely have more reliable crops, and consumers will have a better chance at eating and staying healthy.
That's all for today's episode. As we saw, resourcefulness is not just about making do. It's about making better with what we already have. Are you seeing that kind of approach anywhere around you? We'd love to know. Do tell us, and do not forget to follow us on our Instagram at DW_environment for more stories like this.
Scientists are planting corals in this underwater nursery. Divers cut pieces of healthy corals and attach them to metal frames. These coral fragments grow in marine nurseries for up to 6 months before being replanted in a national park. The catch? They are all clones, genetically identical. If these corals are very sensitive to heat, one temperature spike, like during El Niño, can wipe them all out. In fact, 90% of the corals here died during the last El Niño event. That's why scientists are trying to replicate coral spawning. They took a coral that survived into a tank, recreating the conditions of the ocean during the full moon to trigger natural reproduction. Corals can take the heat. 90% could be gone by 2050. Limiting global warming and conservation can help keep them from vanishing.
I will see you next week with more such stories. Until then, take care, goodbye, namaskar.